have lived out the country must be
So
super.
yeah, it's super.
We have a lot of like sometimes they say something, but definitely more
Funding
I think
is
that's more
different
than culture
and
shock.
There's just so many things.
that's kind of why I love it.
Yeah.
Like, when I say every day is school day, like, I need it to be new. I'm like, even, I got to go to Fridays to go to the size of the cafe, so yeah. And I had it in the dash, and that's exactly on the new machine.
I mean, I love it. It was really hard.
Even there it is, but it was so be that, right?
Well, no, I mean, towards the end, it's like a little sticker.
Yeah, it's like, but don't worry about it, it's not, no.
So that was the
So not the function, but, I've never been.
So these are, you did it so
Yeah, we're in between.
being on social media, because they know they're gonna be on social media to kids. And then take kids out.
Hi, good morning. My name is Chelsie. Everybody lives in Las Vegas, right? That makes sense. I live here, I live here, but I don't live here. I live in
Right now, I'm doing the production.
Yeah, so you kind of like facilitate like development. Yeah. Oh, business. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love that. You can change one of your lines. Hi, I'm Chelsie, Crissy. Yes, Chelsie. But I also grew up here too, so.
I think I work in mindful skills here in Las Vegas. So I handle
That's
Ooh, incredible, yeah. That's really hard. I like building a good team. I think that's so, hi Chelsie. Chris, and if I don't remember everyone's name, I apologize. I mean, we're just, Chris, and what about you? We're going to be here in San Cool! That's really cool. That's amazing. So what kind of solution do you provide? That probably makes us significantly more efficient. Yeah. That's really smart, actually. Think about it. I would never have thought about
Yeah, it started way too broad.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone had a different problem.
Yeah.
See which one was coming up more.
Yeah. It was just a very small, specific problem where you did really, really well. What's your company's name? Legalize. ICE or YZ? Okay, YZ. Cool. Awesome. Hi guys. I'm going to introduce myself. I am Chelsie.
Chelsea? Yeah, my name is
Jessica. You're excited about or what do you do in your like career focus?
So I'm just part of a company that will help people who even have like low credit and then want to want money or business.
Yeah.
Or some the LLC owners that protect their own assets from things.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. That's
So it's not really my business, but because I'm just working.
Yeah. I've worked on we all.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Nice to meet you. Daisy, nice to meet you. Daisy, I love your dress. Very cute. What do you do for work? Cool. Are you a developer yourself? Or are you kind of you build the teams? That's and also I've worked with and collaborated with like development teams who are building proprietary software. So having a engineering as developers is very familiar, but also very particular. So and also speak that language. So I would learn it. Why can't you speak here? Chelsie, how many times do I have to tell you that you don't understand how it works? Yeah. And then also like before you were in that question, being like you would know that it would take a lot to develop that feature, and so like how do you position it in a way to talk to developers like an actual like base? Yeah, you probably value for what they do. Not that I don't, but when sometimes you're like have these random questions you don't know. So I'm sure I could listen to you guys. Yeah, I really want to see this. It's also part of but also like people that internally, it does
Vegas sponsored by the city.
Kind of. We have sponsored, like private sponsors ourselves, and we also have a lot of grant funding. Yeah.
From Nevada.
Yeah.
That's good.
So that's where most of all of our funding comes from, that I know of.
Okay.
But I'm sure there's more back into it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have an event coming up at the Las Vegas Innovation Center.
Awesome. Yeah.
So I think that's run by the city.
Yes. I believe so. Because I know startup is that right there. I don't know. There's been a lot going on. I hear that they're trying to like go away from it because the Las Vegas Innovation Center. Are you talking about Bonfire or the one in downtown?
The one downtown.
Yeah, so the one in downtown, I think they're trying to lean away from it just because there's like a separation now.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hello.
I was wondering, Riley.
Riley, this is Michelle Mallon.
What's up, too? I was just wondering what this event is.
Yeah, so this specific event is it's called RiseUp. It's meant to empower women in like the tech and entrepreneurial space, but we have a very unisex topic. It's about branding.
It's about brand.
Yeah, so that's what today's event is going to be. We have a speaker from Tubi, which is that streaming software, like streaming. And then we also have Tieru. She's actually a local business owner that owns a shop in downtown Summerlin. And then we also have someone that flew in that does social media brand management from Texas.
When does it start?
Starts at 12:30. It's actually will start pretty right now.
Oh, cool. Can anyone listen in?
Yeah, of course.
Come on.
Grab some food. Yeah.
Yeah, good job by the way on your Slack announcements.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
I appreciate it because it's a good way to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
I
Definitely.
went to what have I gone to? I think I went to a CES event, the AI 4.
The CES was during January, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that one was the Fifth Historic Street.
It was Human X.
Oh, Human, yeah.
I went to that party that you guys said, yeah.
I was there, and then it was very cool that it was open bar, but I don't drink.
Yeah.
I didn't think that a company would do open bar like that. I didn't. It was my first one ever going to those. Like, I know AWS when I went, so many people had like a table at a club. I can't do it. How do you people party after going to a convention after walking like 20,000 steps?
It's hard to network at those clubs because it's like the music is just
Yeah, definitely. Right.
Which means that I can't do stage, I gotta get taken off, so, for $295 we could fix it. And I said, I should have so anyway, so I think so. So I was like, hey, mom, just said, would you?
I know.
One
day
we get
Yeah.
Oh, it's a whole issue.
Did you say you work for a development company?
Yes.
For South America?
They're all in South America, they're applying.
Okay, good. Yeah, I've been looking at potentially hiring South America. Because my starter was on their meeting.
Yes.
You probably see all the baby podcasts, and I see that. We've been doing a lot of the babies.
The baby, like the rapper?
I know, I don't know if you've seen them on.
I know.
A lot of these, baby podcasts.
Oh,
Where they're-
baby.
Yeah, where they're taking, visuals. It's gonna be short-lived, for sure, because,
Yeah, I think we're gonna start. No, I'm so sorry. First of all, thank you all so much for coming. We are really excited to have all of our panelists today and talk all about branding. So I'm gonna intro them. I'm gonna let them talk a little bit about their stories, and then I'm gonna have them answer what branding means to them, and then hopefully that will open your guys' eyes and ears and mouths to ask questions, and then it'll just kind of be a nice open forum conversation. Good? Okay. So first up we have, I'm gonna butcher your last name.
It's okay.
I'm gonna say Lauren, so I don't make a mistake.
Yeah.
Who owns Page and Ride downstairs, so please go check out our store.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Lauren Tieru. Good. I own Page and Ride, which is a boutique store. We also have a small event space currently called the Gray Room. So I was in event planning all of my career. I was burnt out. I traveled a lot, missing kids things, and so I told my husband, I'm going to quit my entire career and open a store. And he's like, okay. Sure enough, December before COVID, I put in notice. I had a long notice because I had some big events coming up. Then in January, we found out we were pregnant with surprise baby number 3. And then COVID hit, and he's like, now what are you gonna do? I was like, we're still doing this. So we did. So during October of 2020, we opened a small boutique over in Hualpine Desert Inn called Page and Rye. It's named after our first 2 children, their middle names. I wanted to get by. Before events, I did interior design, so I was like, I'm just gonna open a cute little home store and just buy things I like. And then I really wanted to still do events in a different way, so we had a small room, 18 people or so, that we did events. That was the Gray Room, was our 3rd baby, who I had to name after something. So she got the Gray Room. And during COVID, we did 72 events in less than a year. So somehow it worked out because of COVID, because it was small. And then same thing, the store itself became all local. Because during COVID, everyone and their mom started making things, and they needed a home for those, and so we're like, okay, well, we have a house, so let's do it. So 5 years later, we're all local, and we have over 42 local brands in the store. So, yeah.
What does branding mean to you?
You know, I asked my manager, well, you or me, because it's different. It's definitely our identity, especially, I mean, ours is literally our identity, which is, it's nice to hear other people's story though, how they relate to it, you know? I get called Paige a lot, which is great, or I have a lot of shoppers like, oh, my name's Paige, and then that makes them more, so it's our identity, but it also is everybody else's identity, so I think it relates to them a lot. We have so many things going on in our shop, markets, events, etc., that we really try to make it all cohesive. That's really hard for us to do, is to really make all of these things make sense together. So the cohesiveness is definitely important. Identity, I think, is the biggest thing when I think of our brand. It's our identity. It's what people relate to or appreciate about it. Is about us. I love it.
Okay, next up we have Chelsie Kern, who flew all the way in from Austin, Texas for us, who has a plethora of jobs and things that she does, so I'm just gonna give her the floor.
Yeah, there you go. So I did fly in from Austin, but I am originally from Las Vegas. I haven't lived here since 2006, but I did graduate from high school here. But yeah, my expertise lies at the intersection where brand meets growth marketing, and I've spent my career building early stage startups. I've scaled the startup to a really large acquisition last year. In my previous role, I scaled like this farmer's market favorite into Whole Foods nationwide and Erewhon and Lassen's and CPG. I founded 2 of my own startups, and I've worked kind of like across from consumer-facing tech to SaaS to CPG, and so have this kind of ecosystem. But I would say where brand meets growth marketing is what I'm good at and what I like for ideas, and more so problems that solve real problems for real people. And so brand marketing to me is, it differentiates itself from like more traditional marketing, which is focused on day-to-day kind of goals. So like user acquisition, daily sales, all that, all important, but brand is more the long-term success. It's the glue. You need both, but it's the glue that brings it all together. And so who you are, asking yourself first, what problem are you really solving? Then you can answer who you're really solving it for, and then it's how do I communicate to that specific person, the most focused, your minimum viable product to your minimum viable customer, and then bring the through line with your identity and all of those different pieces. So copy, creative, do you use a red emoji, like a red heart or a white heart, using that consistently? Because by themselves, those details look nominal and almost trivial, but when you zoom out and do something consistently, you're talking to your people, right? And that really, really matters, and that builds legacy brands, not just one-offs. And so that's who I am, what I've done kind of very simply, and that's what I think, that's what brand marketing is to me and why it's important.
And now we have Crissy, is it Hansell? Hansell.
She knew me as my maiden name.
I did, I'm sorry. I have worked both with Chelsie and Crissy, and they're lovely humans, and full circle moment coming back together to do this. Yeah.
Yes, I'm Crissy Hansell. I'm a designer, currently at the streaming service Tubi. I'm one of the lead designers on our creative studio team, which is a department that touches everything: brand marketing, growth marketing, product marketing, comms, events. Pretty much, everything you see about Tubi usually comes from our department. I've been doing design for like 15 years. I didn't know it was that long. I also worked at Influential, so if any of you are familiar with Influential, I was there too for 6 years in the early days. So I'm familiar with building startup brands and things like that. And then what branding means to me, especially now being in the corporate world and working with such a big brand like Tubi, it's not just, like the colors and the look and feel of the brand, it's also the tone of voice. And it goes much further than just like putting something up on social or creating an ad. It's also how you're marketing the brand and to your audience. For example, like Tubi is very playful and quirky, so we keep that in mind in all of our branding, not just the look and feel, but also the way we position ourselves. And that's also really important to keep that, like like you said, consistency throughout your whole brand. Some brands might be a little bit more buttoned up and serious. Some try to be a little bit more emotional and tug at the heartstrings, and they keep that messaging consistent throughout. But yeah, that's what branding means to me.
I love this. Does anyone have a question for them?
Yeah, and we can keep it a conversation
Yeah.
on if you want to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then she's got questions so that we don't have an awkward pool.
I do have a comment. I will say that Tubi, out of all the different streaming softwares or streaming services that I use, they do have the most like recognizable brand. I'm not saying this because you're in the room, but clearly, like Netflix has their like little rainbow road that becomes the end, but whatever. But if you've ever used Tubi, as soon as you log in, they have like that little like dun dun Tubi, yeah. So it's like definitely one of the best brandings that I've seen. Like I don't think I've really ever seen anything from like Max or Hulu besides like there's little things, but I like a jingle. You know, the jingle is very, very nice. Done, Tubi. Yeah, so that's really nice. So you're in great hands with Crissy here, just like hearing her talk and everyone here on the panel as well.
Thank you. And actually, just to know, we just did that rebrand last year. So I don't know how many people were familiar with Tubi before, when was it? So before 2024. It was a complete rebrand, a completely different company from when I started in 2021. And I'm so proud I was able to be a part of that rebrand and had a voice in that. So it's been great.
And it's free.
Brands are crazy.
It's free with ads.
Do you want to talk about going through a rebrand?
Yeah.
It is one of the most rewarding things and also one of the most stressful things because especially for a company as big as Tubi, there's so many different moving pieces. We have, you know, the actual app, we have what you see on the screen. I'm gonna try not to use like acronyms that you guys might not be familiar with. What you see on TV, our growth marketing, our B2B marketing, our brand marketing, those are all different departments and we had to rebrand everything. So, so many little things and you have to have really, really organized project managers, which we do to make sure nothing is missing. Cause then you go live and you're like, oh my gosh, did we forget to change the app screen icon, like the app icon? I mean, we didn't, but you know, like things like that might slip through the cracks, especially because sometimes brands do a rebrand and it's just like changing the colors and their logo stays the same. We changed our tone of voice, we changed our color palettes, we changed the logo, literally everything, the whole layout of our app, the layout of our like the TV, the user experience, everything. So it's definitely a lot of work, and but it's great once you see it live and it's out there and you get to see what everyone thinks about it is great. And but it was a great rebrand, especially because when I started, like I said, we have so many different departments. Everyone was using a variation of the brand, and it was funny because we put up four screens of like different backgrounds, and we're like, which one's the current Tubi brand?
Oh, that's crazy.
And everyone was like, oh, I use that one, and I use this one. Like our brand marketing team used a different like gradient, and then our product team used a different gradient, and there was no consistency. So, and that's really important to have a consistent brand so that you actually are recognizable. And I feel like ever since we did that rebrand, like,
Get feedback.
yeah.
So how, with the rebrand and knowing that people all in different departments use different gradients and logos and have them saved to the computer, how do you make sure that going forward with the rebrand, you're using the correct tone and talking to customers and each other?
We built a huge brand style guide, which again, we had before, kind of two different ones. Like the product team had one, the brand marketing team had one, but we really worked together cross-functionally, like all of the leads, to make sure that we were all on the same page visually and with our tone of voice, and we created this huge brand style guide. So anytime, and at the time when we were going through that rebrand, we had like a Slack channel with all of the leads, and anything new that was created, we would share to make sure if someone else was creating something similar that we were all on the same page. Like things like how we were gonna present like a partnership, like 2B and Fox. Like, are we gonna use a plus? Are we gonna use an X? Are we gonna use a, I don't know, stat? Like make sure that everyone was consistent. So we had that style guide, and then our product team actually built a really great like brand website, which we can share with external partners and different
download
vendors.
assets from that.
You can download,
That's
yes.
great, yeah.
Yes.
And colors.
And
like-
we make sure, I mean, for us, like, for the design team, usually we have our little folder, you know, where we have like the most up-to-date assets, but we always encourage everyone, like, if you're gonna download the 2B logo, make sure you're downloading it from the website, the link that we give you. That way you're always getting the most up-to-date assets. But it's been great. Ever since we did that rebrand, I think we're, like I said, super organized, and we've been keeping it consistent throughout.
So I have some follow-up questions. Do you also have a website, like a web application, if somebody is using their laptop, or do they need?
Yeah, so you can use Tubi on your computer. You can watch it on TV on like Roku, app, or on your phone as well.
Got it. And then how long did the whole project take? And how many engineers, like front-end engineers, mobile engineers, did it take to?
Not sure on that part. I'm more of the I can't build. Yeah, I can't. I'm more of a front-end person. I don't build any of that, but it's a pretty big team. And it took, I mean, I feel like it was really fast. I think we did it in like, well, the front end at least. I'm not sure, I can't speak on the back end how long it took there, but we, I think, did it within like a month and a half maybe. I think we started talks like the end of December, and I think we went live in February. So it was a lot.
Is it a hard launch, or do you like build into the new look?
It was a hard, like, everything.
It was just like,
We just flipped the switch, yeah.
But then you have to have
All
the
that.
signature internally,
Yes,
all of that, like
yes.
everything has to
Those
go
are the
away.
things, those are the
Who's
things,
gonna
like,
figure that out?
yeah,
Yeah.
not even that, but like, some very small things, like we have a lot of like employee resource groups that are like, oh my gosh, we need a new logo with the new branding, and I'm like, oh, should we get it live? But, yeah, there's so many little things, like the email signature, the letterheads, the, deck templates, the,
Badges, I don't know if you're using that, yeah.
well, we were owned by Fox, so, I think Fox did that, my goodness, but yeah, like everything. Your screensaver background, everyone wanted a new Zoom background.
All the things you lay in bed at night and you're like, oh.
Yeah, we had an ongoing list, and everyone was like, think of every single thing that you work on that's gonna need to be rebranded, like all of our growth assets, all of our PR assets, just things like that. You have to really stay on top of when you're doing a rebrand. Also, you're gonna prioritize, like, obviously, like the growth ads that are gonna go live that day, those need to be prioritized. Your email signature can maybe wait till day 2, you know, but, yeah, creating a timeline and, having project managers that are on top of it is super helpful. Also, it's a huge scale, it's a big corporation, obviously now, for a smaller company, I don't know if it would be as stressful, hopefully.
Smaller.
Yeah, like I'm not,
Yeah.
I don't have all of that.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of things. So I actually am, this is very beneficial for me. And we're gonna do a little rebrand soon too, so it's good for me to hear all this stuff too, and think about like how different should it be again, and do we just do a hard launch and what, yeah. It's good. Thank you.
Okay, great. Anyone else? No? Okay, how about, can you share a moment when you saw your brand connect with an audience in a powerful unexpected way?
So I led this company called Winspoon Herbs as the head of marketing, and it was like this indie farmers market favorite, and I led it through a full rebrand. And I worked with an agency that's like one of the premier agencies out of New York called Gander for CPG. So consumer packaged goods in, like you buy it on the shelf, highly replenishable. And it was a long process, start to finish. So from ideation, reimagining who we talked to, because what it was before would not, we had this goal to launch mass retail, mass grocery nationwide, which, how do you do that? How do you stand out on shelf? But when we did the hard campaign, so we went quiet for a week and kind of started seeding the anticipation of it and showing the storyline of who we were before and showing why, kind of anticipating that we were going to be doing this rebrand and this huge launch, but also that we're still the same company, and so not, like, our values were still in place and communicating that, and then kind of seeding these like teaser graphics across channels and then physical assets for what that looked like, and did this campaign that the wellness industry has a luxury problem, in that we wanted to be accessible from a price point while not sacrificing the quality, and that campaign got, like, it was really successful, and then got global recognition. It was picked up by Forbes and Business Insider before we even launched, and then once we launched, and like 3 days later, turned on the full rebrand. It's Nice That, which is a really incredible publication, digital publication, picked up and wrote about the full rebrand that we did and told the story of exactly what we thought about, and it was pretty powerful. And showed that we weren't alienating our original audience while broadening the base that we wanted to speak to. Have you guys ever gone through a rebrand for any of your companies or been an employee through that?
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
Kind of probably a mix between, it wasn't a large company, but you have to, it's basically project managing from engineer standpoint, product development, getting that timeline aligned before you go to the public, and all of those ancillary items that you forget about, that you're like, oh yeah, we need this for HR, we need this deck, or we forgot to do that. And then you just have to project manage after the whole thing was launched. But there's the uncertainty of, for us, it was events and travel, and we were concerned that people would start saying, oh, they only rebranded because of customer service issues. So we wanted to get really in front of it with several communications and writing that very specific as to, we're still the same, we're here for you, and so it was, and from my standpoint, I'm always caring about the customer experience and making sure that the employees are armed with tools and responses from, the leadership, and so just making sure that all of that is aligned when we hit go.
And I think somebody asked, like, was it like, so about the difficulty of a rebrand, so like for like a huge, I don't know how many daily active users or like users you have, but it's like monumental, or like a independently run smaller business. I would say, in my experience, I haven't worked for like a 2B size organization, but large scale, and in my own like small businesses, it's difficult for different reasons, right? So like, and then when you're project managing for and doing all these different things, like it's like resources, but really being thoughtful about that. But then when you hard launch something that like millions of people are gonna see on the first day, you get these challenges that are difficult for different reasons, but like just as important, but like very, the to-do list is still the same.
Yeah, it kind of like meets what you guys are talking about, like brand identity. So I worked with the NFL and the NFL, so it wasn't a rebrand, because obviously that brand is what it is, and I've been in sports for many years. But it was a coloring, a tone, it was RiseUp was the whole thing back then, it still is, and making sure that people weren't making fun of it on social media, and just getting in front of it from a large scale. But because the brand was what it was, you had less stress because it wasn't a full rebrand of the logos and the coloring, but it was still something that we had to be very meticulous about and project manage.
Speaking of social media, how has that changed everything? Is it everything?
For us, it's everything. Instagram is our main. I'm really gotta get better at TikTok. It's really hard. But I have a teenager. I tried to hire her, and that went a whole other direction. But ended up well. So it's all social, and I think part of this rebrand is how hard it is now to be a brick and mortar versus being online or being on. Now there's Whatnot apps that I need to start doing lives on. I need to start doing TikTok lives more. I need to it's like all of these things, and you're like, okay. So again, it's a never-ending to-do list of we need to do this, we need to try that. And I think it all for us it comes down to finding the right people. I think when I opened, I was like, oh, my friends and family are going to support us, and it's going to be great. No. They're not shopping with me or throwing events with me. It's people that I've met or that have, found us that now are my people. So that's been my biggest lesson too is I can't just sell what I like because it's not going to sell to everybody else that doesn't like it. And find your people and they're not going to be.
I have a question on that. So for you specifically, Lauren, I'd love to ask, what's it like on a personal level? What's your personal branding and how do you reach that out to your company branding? Because I know, with Tubi and like the other corporations that Chelsie may have worked with, it's so different because you're building something that is personal to yourself.
Yeah.
How do you reach an audience that maybe is your family and friends or someone that is your mutuals of your family and friends? I think that's something that is very important, especially when you're starting up. And for entrepreneurs and founders, I think that's something that needs to be talked about a lot too.
Yeah, I really try to be true to us. Some of our content is being a hot mess mom trying to run business and getting toilet paper to the door. And then other side of it is something more glamorous. So I'm really like, this is what it is. Some people, again, may like that, and some people don't want to see that. They want to see the very branded, streamlined things. It's not really who we are, and that's great too. But that's what I have made so many connections with people that they come in, we have a bar in the store, they come in, they sit at my bar for hours, and it's just like, okay, this makes us, I have a few people that are like, this is like our second home, and to me, that's like, okay, it's the relationships for sure, that I've made with, again, so many new people, because it's not my friends coming in and spending money, so.
Yeah, when you start your own thing, you think it is going to be.
Yeah.
There is a bar at your store?
We have a bar as well.
I'm going shopping.
Whatever you need. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's what we have a bar, we have a store, we have an event space, so we have a lot coming at you, which is also how I work in my life. What's one more dog? Let's try it. What's one more kid? It's just like, this is how I am, which is also kind of a brand, so I have to make sure that looks cohesive. I also have a general manager that thankfully keeps me on track when I might get a little too far out. But finding your people, I think, is to the end of that was made such a difference to the relationships and connections.
Do you do a lot of cross promotion between your personal Instagram accounts?
Not really. I don't do a ton on my personal, and I know that's kind of another, again, on my to-do list of like, but I think it's like I feel like I want to start like the anti-influencer page, like I'm not doing my makeup in the mirror. Like I got dressed today for once. Like this is a lot. Like so, I feel like I'm the opposite of those. So I'm like, I have to be kind of careful. But I don't, and I know a lot of other brands, especially like in my retail type of stores that do, and I think that does help them a lot. So again, that's on my I gotta do it. People like to see the real side of it too. I mean, they do like to see that I have a ton of people in public, so people do follow me, and then again they're like, oh, I saw you into New York. Oh my gosh, you know that? Okay. So yes, again on my to-do list because I do think, especially in my small business, they relate to that, so they do like that. I think. I think so. But then again, too, now I'm at like, okay, how do I streamline? We have an events page that I'm trying to manage. We have the store page I'm trying to manage. So then it's like, okay, but how do I now streamline, which is back to, I think, part of some like rebranding and focus on what's really working instead of trying to do 800 things. All right, what should I really focus on and streamline to?
I think authenticity matters. Yeah, there's that whole article that I just read on, I don't know, New York Post or something, but it's like the death of the millennial grid, because like, one, it's been a really difficult 5 years since COVID for global society, you know, but also being sold to in this inauthentic way when you, like, you can see through it, like, it's very clear what the purpose is here, and we do want authenticity because our own private lives are real and messy and difficult, so you want like a really nice blend of aspirational and just like, actually, this is like a real person or a real company, you know?
No, I appreciate influencers who have companies outside of just influencing.
Yeah.
Like, sure, I wanna see the Snapple box
Yeah.
you bought, but don't throw me an Amazon link. And usually, which nothing wrong with influencers doing all of that, but when, like, I'm gonna use, I don't know if you're from Spearmint Baby. It's this woman who has like a brand of like baby clothes, but her personal brand is mixed in with her actual boutique. Like, she shares her day-to-day of running a business at that size, which has its pros and cons. Sometimes, you know,
I may turn off people,
sometimes she'll share something about her
And then they
personal
put
life.
again, those are my people.
Yeah, exactly. And then some people, there's gonna be people who are like, you know, I don't agree with how she did this, but I still like her PJs. I'm still gonna buy her PJs. But it's nice seeing the face behind the brand, and I appreciate like influencers like that actually are building something besides just sharing on the internet, because that could all go away.
Is that harder at a larger company?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely different for someone like.
You have to rely on your
Yeah.
team to
Yeah.
be the face, right?
Yeah.
To make sure.
Well, for Tubi, it's mostly, like on our socials, we share more of the content that we have on social. Like, we share like little clips of what movies or shows you can find on Tubi that month, things like that. We do have a lot of Tubi originals, and we did kind of go viral, like I don't know if you guys are on Tubi, but the nice throw, or nice catch, cheer, that's not my name, quarterback. It's all the little kids are, all the young kids, and I remember I saw kids at my daughter's dance studio doing that, and I'm like, what? And then I saw it at my son's football game, they were all like recreating it, and I'm like, that's my movie.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
So things like that will go viral, but usually what you see on social for Tubi, it's usually just content. Or, I know you mentioned like, hoping people don't make fun of like your new rebrand. Tubi, we're very self-aware and know that people have always made fun of us. You know, like we're not like NBC, we don't have blockbuster movies. Our movies are very low budget. That's not, Tubi is not, we're not like focused on making these huge blockbuster films. So people will say on Tubi, like, or on TikTok, like, oh, another Tubi movie, like cheesy, corny movies. We're playful, like our tone of voice is very playful, so we kind of play off that, like, we'll make fun of ourselves. And like, we just streamed the Super Bowl this year, which went incredible for us. And it's so funny because we saw memes after, like, Netflix could never, especially when they had all those issues when they were streaming the fight. So we like,
It works in your favor to not try to be something you weren't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. So I love your store, first of all. I go in all the time, but specifically, speaking about like just being authentic, there was like it was a couple weeks ago when I went in with my 1-year-old who was throwing fits, like that's where he's at. And you were there and you had your kids who were like home from school or something. And it was a little chaotic, but it made me like, it gave me like a breath of like, okay, like I'm in a safe space, like this is so nice. And so like, I think to your point, like that is your brand, and like as a mom, I appreciate that and I love your store for it. How do you feel about like, I feel like a lot of the other stores in downtown Summerlin are more chain, you know, Banner Republic, Gap, whatever. Yeah. How do you feel it's different, how it's hard, how it's better to brand like a little
have so many stay-at-home mom friends, whatever. And I'll never forget my first like bad Yelp review was somebody came in, I don't even remember if it's a man or a woman, and they came in, it was a mommy and me Monday, is what we did, stay-at-home moms, brought the kids, vendors would show off like their new bounce house or whatever, we do a whole thing, everybody bonded. And somebody came into the store to shop, and so they wrote a Yelp review. They're like, "Is this a store or a daycare center?" And it was like all that stuff. And of course, I was devastated. And then after, I'm like, "No, this is why I did this, and that's fine. You can go somewhere else." Like, first of all, my kids are just screaming at Target, so it doesn't matter here or there. But like, that's why I did this, you know. And so yeah, like we have the kids here. We'll bring them in anytime. We don't care. That's why I have wine as well. So. It's still hard. So we've learned a lot about people like and love, and I'm guilty of it too. Order Amazon 12 times a day. Like people like and love the idea of this local shop, and they know these people that are making things, and they get to actually meet these people, or curating, you know, the collection or whatnot. Because not everybody's making them, but they love that. But the world is still shopping the Banana Republics and the Gaps and the things like that. Full honesty, we were where Abercrombie is next to Lululemon. We did a big stint there, and then we moved literally around the corner. From moving away from next to Lululemon, I'm down 50,000 a month in sales. And it's because that's where they're all at. They're at Lululemon. They're at all of these places. Even, you know, I'll have the same thing as another store that's a lot less and it's local. They're still buying it over there. So it's been hard. It's a great like hangout, but it's hard for the actual sales, especially in this weather.
Just do like a promotion, like bring your Lululemon or something and get like lucky drop or something.
I don't think downtown someone would like that very much.
That's true, but.
You're encouraging shopping at
And it's both, yeah, it's both, yeah.
High
It's hard.
velocity sales.
It's hard. It's hard. Yeah.
I have one question. So I don't know if this is really relative to branding, but let's just say that we have the company and then we already have this kind of our own character, and then we found out the other company doing the same thing with us, and they are copying our things that what we first do, and then what we can do to that, because that the other company actually got bigger than us, and then we cannot go up and say, oh, it's actually me, us go first or something. It's because the same thing you also actually other company, but like we don't know what to do about this part.
I've had that problem with the larger companies. So Moon Juice, which was a lot larger than What's Been Herbs at one point, now it's kind of but they were copying like almost verbatim all of my campaigns. And it's really difficult, especially if you don't have this character, this persona trademarked, I'm assuming, so you can't do a cease and desist.
So it's actually just, my uncle, he has a local golf tournament.
Yeah.
And then what he started the golf tournament because he wants to let the junior golfers to have fun at the same time. It's not really just for compete. So he started kind of like rules since like 2008. Like every champion of that division, they have to have a speech act.
Yeah.
And then like kids and parents like that because they kind of prepare for that. And then the other really big, I'm not going to say company, but the other really big like golf tournaments, we just found out that they are doing the same thing as us. And then they are saying that, we started a tradition or something. But at the same time, it's like because we only do local, we only do in Vegas, and then the other company just doing all the tournaments the other. Like, so that's why like my uncle, the other company, they start the same year, but because they're doing this, and then they just got bigger, and then so it's just a little frustrated. And then I believe that in the future, if anybody's doing the same thing, I believe like maybe we will meet some people like this, and then I just don't know like in the future if we meet people like this, how can we improve it, or like how can we
what are your differentiated, what are your goals for this? I think it depends, your action depends on your goals, but it is very frustrating, but like imitation is the highest form of flattery. It's a cliche and it's true, but it doesn't change that it like sucks. Especially when it's your creative vision and your work and doing that. That said, there's something to be said for allowing you to do your thing and having grace for those things, but thinking about like what are your goals for this if it's only in Las Vegas? Does them doing and saying we did this first actually hurt what you're doing here? Do you want to scale it? And then answering those questions first and then thinking about what is our differentiator and how do we protect that so that it's clear in the future and not, just blinders on, y'all do your thing, we know it's true, you know it's true, but that, I think having integrity in that, it doesn't change that it sucks, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's harder to.
It's also really corny to copy other people's work. But
they know that
it's sad for them,
yeah.
honestly.
But they knew it was working, but in the end, hopefully too, when if they continue to be bad guys and you're still the good guy in the end, hopefully that comes out.
Yeah, and I would have to, and we can talk, if you wanna email me, I'll share mine, but I would love to look at it, but think about what the goals are for you, leave that be as it is, and then based on what the goal and the vision is for this event or organization, how can you differentiate in the future and protect that, whatever that is. So it's clear that your fans over there aren't continuing to use you as a creative resource.
Thank you. We'll take our golf clothes over there. We want to do that?
Chelsea, do you want to talk a little bit, just because we are Startup Vegas, about working with early stage companies? Where do you start?
Well, right now, one of my clients, so I'm the co-founder also currently of an app called Buddy, and it's a social utility app that is built to build URL, really sophisticated technology to strengthen IRL connections. So there's no media, but you can communicate even with your buddies, even when Wi-Fi or cell service isn't present, and it's specifically for Gen Z. But I also have one of my clients is this company called Soto, and I'm working on their go-to-market. We haven't launched yet, for a reimagined baby jumper and activity center that's beautiful, made from natural materials, transitions into a table, into toddlerhood, Montessori kind of inspired, then you can swap out the accessories, but made from natural wood, all the no weird plastics, doesn't scream at you, and rattle, you don't want to hide it as soon as you possibly can. And there are two different things, but with Soto, I lead with product, right? So product everything. So the brand should come after the product. So what are you actually creating, and why does it matter? And who, you think you know who your people are? Most of the time, you're probably wrong. And so really deep diving into that, and then from there, building out the brand ecosystem. So this is going to be a higher price point for the Soto baby jumper because it's made to last. It's built durable. One of the founders is she's like the Kendra Scott of baby gear, but she's the one that made the grass bottle dryer. So if you have parents or you're a parent, she made that. And but it is going to be significantly more expensive, not because we want it to be luxury per se, nothing wrong with luxury, but because it is quality and it costs a lot more to make in tariffs. I don't know if you've heard of that. And so how do we talk to them in a way that doesn't, we're not talking about we are competitors, like the plastic and all that, because we don't want, that doesn't, we talk about who we are, why we made this. It's baby first, and then it's also beautiful, but we know that I have 3-tier audiences after the product has been made, after we know. I've done lots of physical focus groups with that, but our tier audience, and I have a template for kind of brand building, and questions to ask yourself and how I think about that, and I share it with whomever, just send me an email. But our tier audience is the curated mom. Second tier audience, that's who we're talking to with launch, first and foremost, everything. And then second tier audience is the discerning researcher. So this is the hyper Montessori mom that is going to pick apart and ask the craziest questions, and it's your baby first, so that's, I understand. And then the third is the gift givers. So it's your friends or your grandparents that are giving these gifts. And so thinking about really product first, how do we make the product as best as it absolutely can be, whether it's a physical good or an application, and then who is it that we're talking to, and then it informs everything else. But I would say building startups, whether it's a physical or digital good, should be product first and making the product as best as possible and actually solving a real problem for real people, and then caring about the people that you're working with internally. Be good people, help good people, and work with good people, because your team is also a facet of your brand, right? And actually doing that meaningfully will pay dividends in years to come. Like at Blackbird, when I was with Leslie at Blackbird, I think one of the reasons that we had such incredible success was because we're a people first company. And then we're very successful externally, but like our employees were the best brand advocates and influencers for the brand as we scaled from one office to 2 offices into California, 7 employees to like 160 or something.
No turnover.
So that, I don't know if that answered it, but I hope it did.
Do you want to talk about your startup experience on the design branding side? Because obviously there's a lot of opinions and there's a lot of
Working cross-functionally.
Cross-functionally.
The startup is crazy.
Well, I've been a part of 2, I think we did a rebrand at
We
Influential.
definitely did.
Yeah, but it was definitely not like at this, what we did at 2, like I just had to swap the logo in a few spots.
Yeah. I think we changed the color. Like
Yeah,
the blue
we
or
made
something.
the blue like
a little
darker.
Yeah.
I think. But it wasn't like such high stakes at the time. Like
But even the decks, you redid all how the decks were presented and
we had to redo like all of the sales materials, things like that. I don't.
Is it more difficult if the product isn't less, like in an early stage startup, sometimes you're still figuring out what the real product is.
And you were like I was when you were speaking. A lot of people when they're starting their company, they're like, okay, I need a logo. What should I call my company? And I'm like, hold up, figure out what you're doing first. What if like, for example, like I'll use my son as an example. He wants to start tie-dyeing socks and son. And he's like, I need to come up with a name. What if I end up tie-dyeing shirts? I can't just call it socks. And I'm like, relax. Let's just tie-dye the socks.
yeah.
Go to a little farmer's market, see if they sell. We'll just make little poster boards of socks. And then once you figure out like
Minimum viable product.
which direction you're gonna take it, and then we can start thinking, he's 10. Like, then we can start thinking, he's very entrepreneur, like he really wants to do this. But you kind of have, because once you start getting your brand going, you realize like, oh, I guess I shouldn't have called it that, or maybe this doesn't work. And sometimes you see a lot of small companies doing rebrand after rebrand after rebrand, and it's like,
just because their product doesn't work.
yeah, because they haven't even figured out what their identity is yet. And sometimes you have to start slow. Like I was telling my son, like, let's just do socks. Do socks for a while, maybe even a year, before you start introducing other things. Sometimes a lot of companies like try to grow too fast and do everything and be an expert in everything when they're not yet. And that's tough. Yeah. But I don't think that was a question. I just wanted to make sure I said that.
With startups, like using your son as this example, but this same thing that like startups do, like we need everything figured out now. You're like, the only thing you need to figure out now is what your initial product is, and if anybody wants to buy it or use it, and then who those people are, and then once you figure that out, then you can build out how, but leading minimum viable problem first, not your product. What's this minimum viable problem? And so I think his name is Chris, and I met him, he was sitting in that chair, had to leave, but he has a startup, or an AI startup, and he started with law firms, right? And it was like proofreading all of the documentation and things that are outside of my wheelhouse or expertise, but then now it's just for personal injury law firms, and I was like, oh, that's so interesting, like how, and it like proofreads medical records and all of these like supporting documentation that you need for the legal process, and I was like, that's so interesting, how did you get there? And it was like, because I started for law firms, and I was too broad, and didn't solve it, and like ChatGPT would do that, okay? And so I had to focus on a place that I would have like the most impact. And so that's like, he was a startup founder, and like, that's kind of an application of that.
Yeah.
You're like, tie-dye socks for cyclists,
Yeah.
Well, I think it's like what you're saying, because I fell into like a founding team member and kind of not fighting but pushing back on founders. For everything that you guys are talking about, it's start with why assignments in it. Like, what are you there for? What problem are you solving? And then when the revenue conversation trumps what you're building from a product and edge perspective, it's let's do this thing and let's do this thing really well. And then what's the next iteration? And so that was always, I don't know if anyone else could chime in, that was my biggest problem or challenge, if you will, is trying to overcome that in two different startups.
Yeah, that's definitely tough, especially like as a creative. And I always say this, like design and creative, it's all subjective. Like something that I think looks really good, like you might think looks like crap. So it's really hard when you're working cross-functionally and you're getting feedback on things and you're like, no, but I really want the text centered, but I want it left aligned, like things like that. But something that we do at 2B, like our growth marketing ads, which is actually something I'm working on right now, is we like to test things. Because at the end of the day, data is what's going to let us know what works and what doesn't. I come more from like a marketing background, so I see an ad and I want to put like engaging text on it, but the growth marketers might be like, those actually don't perform well. They might just want the 2B logo huge. And I'm like, oh, do we really need to have it huge? Could we have it smaller? So those are things we have to test, and then we can get the data and be like, okay, so I guess people click through and actually stay on the app longer if the 2B logo is huge. And then that will then kind of change the way creatives are like designing. But unless you have that data, you're just like, but no, like,
I like this, so everybody's gonna love it.
Yeah, and so it's good to, like for a creative, it's good to not just have the skill of designing, it's also good to have that background knowledge of the data and the testing, and then you'll include that in your work.
Yeah, I like to have like 5 different fonts and they're all pretty, and my husband's like, no. It's pretty, it's like, yeah. But same, like, I mean, there are things in our store, I love them all, but things that I'm like, oh, this is never gonna sell, and then it's my top seller. I'm so confused. Yeah, it's so hard, so.
Yeah, it's so funny because I have, back in the day, I had like a little Etsy shop and I used to make like invitations. And I made this was like back in 2016, it's the funniest invitation. I look at it now and I'm like, what? But it's like, to this day, it just sells. I just leave it there. People are still buying it. I'm like, whatever. But like, I know it. And people like, oh, I saw your Etsy. And I was like, I know, don't judge. I did that when I was like, this was like 10 years ago, but it's still selling, so I just leave it there.
Anything else before we wrap up? Do you guys want to share what the best way to get in contact with each of you is? If people want to have questions or share things?
Instagram, PaigeandRiLV, send me DM, shop at PaigeandRi.com, email, I'll give you cards and a cell phone, whatever. An open book for sure too, so.
So my name is Chelsie, with an I-E is why I say so. Because my godmother's name is Susie, I didn't figure out the naming logic there until I was like 22 years old. Thanks, Mom. So Chelsie Kern on LinkedIn. My website is chelsie.world, CHELSIE. Put a www before that, otherwise it'll just Google search Chelsie World. And my email is my full name, so Chelsie Rose, R-O-S-E, Kern, K-E-R-N, @gmail.com. I have a branding kind of template for small and large scale organizations that I've used for both that I think is really helpful, and I'm happy to provide that. I'll be traveling tomorrow, so if I don't get it to you till the end of the week, but I will get it to you if that is something of interest, and that's very fun.
You can find me on LinkedIn, Crissy Hansell, C-R-I-S-S-Y, Hansell, H-A-N-S-E. I am on Instagram. I just have my personal, but speaking of branding, I remember I used to have like a old Instagram and I'm trying to revive it. People are like, oh, you should share all the projects you work on. I'm always so busy, so I never like, you
It's like
finish,
you
you finish one project.
to get the shoes.
Yeah, did I film any of that?
Yeah, you finish one project and then you're like on to the next and you're like, oh yeah, I guess I should have shared that. And my friends are like, yeah, you should. I'm like, bro, I just bought vibes. I don't have it. But that Instagram is Crissy, CRISSY, creative.co. And I promise I'll start posting. That's like a goal that I really need to start sharing, like all the cool stuff I do at Tubi and then personal like side projects. Definitely want to do more passion projects as well. So yeah, if you follow that, maybe this year I'll start posting more. You get so caught up in the corporate world that you just forget to do like the fun little side projects. But
Well, I just want to say thank you. You were all wonderful and insightful, and this was just really informative. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
Yeah.
And thanks for being here, you guys. Appreciate you.
So thank you so much, everyone. If you guys have any trouble finding the panelists, they have all been tagged on our Startup Vegas LinkedIn. So if it's easier to find that way, if you forget the spelling of or anything, like it's everything is all there. And then join our Slack channel as well. That way you guys can come to more of these events. These events are great to just network, and everyone's so nice. So thank you so much for coming here today. Thank you.
We have another luncheon tomorrow at the WeWork Town Square. With the Director of Marketing and Customer Success at Jampack, which is a local startup that has done very well. Yeah, done very well. Yeah, so we have another one tomorrow that will be there. So if you're free, come join us there. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. So nice to meet all of you.
Oh, and then please grab a lot more food. If there's tons of leftovers.
Tomorrow is
Tomorrow is going to be from 11 to 2. 11 to 2.